Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DISB Download, an official podcast of the DC Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking, also known as DISB. I'm Chief Communications Officer Art Swift, and I'm here with our Director of the Office of Financial Empowerment and Education, Michelle Hammonds. I'm also joined by Shida Williams, Program Manager at the Office of Financial Empowerment and Education. Welcome, Michelle and Shida.
Thank you so much, Art.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Today we're going to talk preparing for home ownership, how to know if you are ready to buy, how to be a successful homeowner. But I want to start with both of you. Michelle, please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at DISB.
Sure. I am a district resident for my entire life, except for when I went away for college. And I have the pleasure to be the inaugural director of the Office of Financial Empowerment and Education at DISB. It has been an opportunity to bring resources to district residents that help them with their personal finances. I have a portfolio of programs that I manage. Some of the biggest ones include the Bank on DC program, our Opportunity Accounts program, which is a match savings program, as well as being the liaison for the Summer Youth Employment Program. We have also built out a program called Financially Fit DC, where individuals are able to learn about how to manage their personal finances. And one of those tenets in that particular program is preparing to buy a home. And so I'm happy to join you all today to share more about the programs that I manage. And I'll turn it over to Shida to talk a little bit about what she wants to.
And good morning, Art.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Shida Williams, and I'm a program manager at the Office of Financial Empowerment and Education. And there I manage a program called the Financial Empowerment Center. And the Financial Empowerment Center is a place where district residents can get free financial counseling, one-on-one financial counseling. They can schedule appointments either virtually or in person, and they can go over all things budget, credit, debt management, also savings. These are the 4 core tenets that one would need also to buy a home. So I'm really excited to be here. I'm a native Detroiter, but I've lived in DC now for 18 years. I am a district resident and homeowner. So I'm also here to talk about my experiences moving in the district, living in the district, and also as a district government employee providing resources to our constituents and the residents of DC.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad to be speaking with both of you today. So let me just start with a quick overview question. Can you give us a brief overview of the home buying process?
Absolutely. For home buying, it's never the same for any one individual, but understanding some of the core tenets is going to be really important. Whether you are gathering and understanding your finances, knowing where you want to live, picking out the right team to assist you, and making sure that you have your finances in order is going to be a key thing to get ready for home ownership. Many times for people, this is a new experience, but there are many resources and programs, especially here in the District of Columbia, that can assist you in the process.
Terrific. So what is the biggest misstep that potential home buyers make before starting the process?
Well, I would say not preparing for the process. So I think a lot of people may have some preconceived ideas about what the process is or isn't, and they don't really do their homework and not gathering the documents that are needed and not being clear about their expectations. So I think the first step, as Michelle kind of said, was to just gather information and get everyone in the household involved in what the home buying process might be or might look like.
Makes a lot of sense. Now, we always hear about credit, right? Everyone is talking about they have to have the right credit for home buying. People get nervous about it. What type of shape should your credit be in?
The better your credit is in, the better shape and the better loan you may be able to get. But most importantly, you need to understand what's on your credit report. So I think it's always key for an individual to pull up their credit report. They can easily access it by using freecreditreport.com if they want to pull it on their own. But let's say they're working with a professional, such as a lender or prior to working with the lender, a credit counselor, or what have you, they can also pull your credit report for you for free. And so understanding what's on your credit report is going to be important because these are the things that the lender will look at when they will look to qualify you for a loan. One of the things that people need to understand that the credit score is a continuum. Credit scores run from 350 to 850. On average, a better credit score is 650 or above. So that can get you some better loan options. However, there are options for people with lower credit scores, but they may not be always favorable. So it's going to be important to make sure an individual understands what they have on their credit report, understands how this may impact them. And that's where talking to one of the professionals, such as a lender, a credit counselor, can help you in that process.
Absolutely. Along that vein, I don't think the importance of credit can be understated because it's really the basis for which lenders are going to use to determine whether or not you're able to get a loan. And so I think the first step, as Michelle stated, was to visit annualcreditreport.com. And that is the government-sponsored website where you can get each of your three bureaus, that's Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, free of charge once per year, and you can see where you stand. And then from there, if you like to pay for your score or you like to go visit your lender to see what your score is for free, then you're able to do that. Okay. And then after that, just making sure you clear any errors that are on your reports, and then also be prepared to pay off any lingering debt, right? That's going to get your credit in the best shape possible to get the best interest rate.
Makes a lot of sense. That's great information. So we've talked about credit. Let's talk about down payments at this point. How much money does a home buyer really need to put down? I mean, and also, how would you suggest they approach savings for that down payment?
Well, that's a great question and somewhat loaded in the sense. I would say not one comes before the other. It needs to happen probably concurrently. Someone needs to, but really they need to be thinking about what is saving looking like for them. So saving on a regular basis, saving monthly, having a specific goal. We like to always save with a goal in mind. So as an individual is thinking about buying a home and they want to focus on their down payment, looking to have on average 20% of a down payment is what it's needed for a conventional loan. There are a number of loan programs that are available that may be at a lower amount. However, that is typical of what you may see in the marketplace.
So, as Michelle stated, the conventional rate is going to be about 20% of the purchase price of the home. Mm-hmm. So let's say that the home price is about $400,000. Which is not hard to do in Washington, D.C., right? So that means that a future home buyer would want to save about $80,000. And that seems kind of daunting, right? But as Michelle also alluded to, there's additional programming. So there's FHA, where there's 3.5% down. So now instead of the $80,000 on the $400,000 house, one can put down as little as $14,000. And now there's going to be a little bit more of a requirement there for private mortgage insurance. But if you're worried about saving for a down payment, there are programs out there to assist. In addition, DC has its HPAP program, the Home Purchase Assistance Program, very popular. It kind of speaks for itself in the district. But I will plug it here, which helps borrowers also afford that down payment. They'll give borrowers up to $202,000 for a down payment, right? And based on their kind of income and household size. And then also, let's not forget closing costs. So we're also going to need money, 2 to 5% of the loan amount. You're going to need to also sock away. And a lot of borrowers find this out during the process. So it's important to save ahead of time. 2 to 5% of the purchase price for all of the back work, the title work and lender work that needs to happen in order to close the deal. So that's also going to need to be an amount.
Those are some incredible deals you're speaking about. And I think where would people find these first-time home buyers? How could they find out about these types of programs?
So the District of Columbia has really made an effort to make the home buying programs that are available to the residents easy to find. One of the resources that they have used is the Front Door program, frontdoor.dc.gov, as a resource for individuals if they're trying to buy a home, to look at all the various home ownership programs that are out there. Through our program, Financially Fit DC, people are also able to connect to the home buying programs as well. So we want to make sure that the information is available. I do think it's really important that individuals speak with their lenders as well. As Shaida was mentioning, there are a number of government programs that are available, but many of the private lenders may also have programs as well as nonprofit organizations. So one of the key things that I mentioned earlier was developing your team. So as you're developing your team, as you're talking to a real estate agent, a mortgage lender, these are the people that can also tell you about which programs may be available and which things you may qualify for. Because as I said, home ownership is unique to each individual, but the programs out there are specific and available for many people to benefit from.
Absolutely. I think this is also an opportunity to shamelessly plug the Financial Empowerment Center, where one can go and get some guidance on these types of matters. So if one wants to set up an appointment, they can do so by emailing fec@upo.org, and they can set up an appointment, go over their financial situation, and also hear about all of the yummy programs that are in the District of Columbia that constituents can partake in.
That sounds excellent. Can you repeat that one more time?
Absolutely. It's fec@upo.org.
Very good.
And they can just email that address and say they'd like to talk more about home ownership opportunities.
And I should also mention, in general, if you're looking for anything that we're talking about today or with the department itself, you can go to disb.dc.gov. Again, that's disb.dc.gov. Well, I'm going to shift gears for a sec and talk about home ownership and renting and all the things that kind of go along with either or. Can you give a brief overview of how the responsibilities of a homeowner are different from a renter?
Wow. So that is a question that people really need to make sure that they're prepared for, because it is a transition in the mindset. When you are a renter, you have a landlord to call on, you have a maintenance man to assist you if you have some things that may come up in your property. When you are a homeowner, you are that person.
That's exactly right.
And so being able to understand that transition first and foremost is going to be important. There are certain things that an individual would want to do to make sure that they're prepared for home ownership. Understanding a little bit of home maintenance is going to be important. Being able to find out which resources may be available if you need a plumber, if you need someone to help you with a locksmith and all of that. So there are a number of things that you might want to make sure that you're up on as you're trying to go into that space. I know when I bought my home, one of the things that I had to do was change some plumbing in the house. And luckily I had my father who was able to help me with that process. But those are some of the things that you have to think about when you're a homeowner that you may not be able or may not have to do as a renter. So being prepared for that is going to be important. And one thing I will say, home ownership can be daunting for individuals. However, with perseverance and diligence, you are able to move through that process and deal with the things as they arise.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. So the way I like to think of it is there's budgeting for renting and then there's budgeting for home ownership. And so much like Michelle had alluded to, now you're on the hook for repairs, utilities, all of them, right? Because usually as a renter, you're only paying one of a couple of utilities. Very few people pay water, gas, and electric. They may only have to pay one of those or two of those, right? So now they're going to have to pay all of them. And then taxes, which is also, a lift. Those things can be included in your mortgage payment, but you're also just responsible in general for those. And that's a little bit different than being a renter. So it's important to kind of see what that's going to look like hypothetically before you move into moving into ownership, right? So it's not just about saving for the down payment and the closing costs. It's also about making sure that you have a strong budget where you can afford to also take on those additional tasks so that you can enjoy being a homeowner.
And along those lines, you've started to allude to a few of these things. Let's talk about routine maintenance and repairs. I mean, what features in the home should be checked or maintained every 3, 6, 9, 12 months?
One of the biggest things that you need to think about as it relates to maintenance is your air quality, your HVAC program, process, whatever you have in your house. And each house is going to be different. Some may have central air, and in DC, some may have individual windows, window units, or what have you. And so you want to make sure that you check those prior to having to use them. Also, when you're thinking about heat, making sure that you're checking. So really thinking about it on a seasonal basis, I think is going to be important for individuals when they're thinking about that maintenance in their home.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to think about it. Also, making sure that you do regular pest inspections, right? You don't want to wait until there's an infestation, right? You want to do regular pest inspections. Though, and if you have a single family house, checking the gutters, the downspouts every spring and every fall, because when water is the most destructive element to a home, and because it can get in there and for a long time do quite a bit of damage. Another resource I want potential homeowners to know about is working with their insurance company. So insurance companies are really good resources here because, of course, they're going to insure the property. They want to make sure that it is properly maintained. They often have checklists, if you ask, that will help you schedule your seasonal maintenance, and, you can set reminders for yourself and so forth. But that was certainly something I did when I bought my home, is to make sure that I worked with my insurance company to figure out, okay, what do I need to do? How often does it need to be done? And I have my checklist, and, every season I kind of check that for updates.
Makes sense. So let's talk taxes. Everyone's favorite topic. We always like thinking about taxes, but seriously, what are property taxes and how often are they paid? I think definitely you've been talking about how there's a change in mindset from renting to homeownership, and one of them is certainly the glaring property taxes. So what could homeowners do to anticipate and save for this?
So once you get a loan, typically there are certain pieces that are included in that loan. You have principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Those are typical things that you will see in there. If you have a mortgage loan that will, what we do call, put your money in escrow for you, they will be able to help you with the payment of those particular things as it relates to taxes. Taxes are usually assessed in March and September for most municipalities, and that's how it is here in the District of Columbia. And so that percentage I'll let Shaida talk about, but what those specifics are, but those are some of the things that people need to think about. You want to make sure that you have money set aside in your escrow account so that you are able to make those payments. Those can impact you if you have not set aside enough money for the anticipated tax assessment that you will have.
So as Michelle mentioned, when you get your primary mortgage, they typically will escrow your taxes and insurance on a monthly basis. So they'll figure out what your taxes will be on your property for you as a service, and they will take out in every monthly payment a portion of that amount. And every March and September, they're going to send that money directly to the Department of Tax and Revenue, which is our tax collection service in the district. So that's kind of taken care of. So when you think about monthly payments, you also want to make sure what those calculations are, if they're including taxes and insurance. Now, to save money on taxes, there are certain things in the district, tax credits that homeowners should know about. First of all, there's a first-time homebuyer individual tax credit in the District of Columbia. Now, you have to file that with your taxes, but what's cool about it is it's a refundable credit, which means that if there's any amount over the amount that is due, that they'll give you a credit. They'll refund the money to you, okay? So that's pretty cool. And then also, If it's your primary residence, and for first-time buyers it typically is, that means you live in the property, then there's also a homestead deduction, which means they'll wipe out the first $75,720 of your tax burden, and of your assessed amount. And then they'll calculate from there. So every primary homeowner in District of Columbia is entitled to that. That's pretty cool. Also seniors, people over 65, and then also disabled residents, there are tax credits available there. But understand this, taxes are very complex. So we're just going to ask that everyone consult their tax professional to figure out, and help do some planning to figure out what they're entitled to so they don't, fudge this one.
And just make sure that people are aware, depending on where they are with their income, there may also be some free tax preparation services that are available, such as some of the programs that we also promote at our agency, which is through our Earned Income Tax Credit Program. And as we are promoting that, we are also promoting free tax preparation for income-specific individuals. However, there are a number of tax providers that are available to district residents. So as Shaida alluded, making sure that you can talk to a tax professional or someone that does it on a regular basis can also be helpful for you in your home ownership journey.
Shameless plug, huh?
So we're recording this podcast in the summertime when I know I'm cranking my air conditioning all the time and using a lot of water and such. What would be some tips that you could give our listeners to keep utility costs low?
I would say, most importantly, you want to try to look to see if those utility companies have what we call a budget plan. Those are things that are available for individuals where they can normalize their monthly expenses for utilities. I know that it is available through Pepco, it's available through, or the electric company, I should say, depending on where you are, as well as through our DC Water program as well. So some of our utilities will help to normalize those payments for an individual, which will help them with a reduction or being able to prepare for their budget of what does it look like to pay for those utilities. Because as someone may transition from renter to owner, that is going to be a shift in those payments.
So DC Sustainable Energy Utility, DCSEU, right? They actually publish a list of things that they think people should do, homeowners should do in order to save money. And I'm a student here, so I'm just going to rattle off a few. And some of them I actually do, so I was really surprised. So set your thermostat at the highest comfortable temperature. Really? that you can bear. And the efficiency starts about 78 degrees. So if you're like me and you like the summertime, that won't be a problem. So 78 degrees, but the highest temperature that you're comfortable with. I think that's pretty cool. And they have these smart thermostats now where you can use your smartphone to kind of control the thermostat, but raising the temperature a few degrees while you're away and while you're sleeping also helps save money. So I thought that was cool because I do things. I actually don't turn on my air until it's like 85 degrees outside. So, that's just me. And on hot days, defer some of those heat producing tasks like laundry, baking in the oven, also using the dishwasher. Apparently that produces a lot of steam and heat, and that also causes the air conditioning and the energy to, work harder to cool the house. And then opening the windows, like today is a cooler day. It's like in the like 70, 71 degrees today. Open the windows instead of having the AC on. That's a good way also to save energy. And then also using power strips. This was one that's a challenge for me because I have things plugged in all over the house. But you can actually buy these power strips, plug everything into it, and the new power strips will, while the item is idling, it won't transmit energy to the particular electronic. And that's a big power drain, just having chargers plugged in and items plugged in while they're not in use. So those are some pretty cool tips. I'm employing some of these, and so I want to share some of them. But to find out the full list, dcseu.gov is where one can find the list.
That is fascinating. I'm going to have to be talked into the 78 degree thing, but but everything else sounds great. So yes.
I would say usually when you're thinking about your thermostat, you might want to go 20 degrees below what you see the temperature gauge is. So instead of going all the way to 65, if it is a 90-degree day, 78 might be very reasonable. So don't think about it as, what is just the temperature in the house, but what are you really cooling against? It's the heat outside. And the same thing can be thought of when we're in the cold season, having it 20 degrees above. So these are different things that you can help to do to save money on those particular expenses.
Very, very helpful and useful. Well, we are wrapping up here, but I have one more question, and that is, what are the important phone numbers or city resources that new homeowners should be familiar with?
Well, again, I have to have that shameless plug for Financially Fit DC. FinanciallyFitDC.com is a useful tool to help you manage your personal finances, whether you're trying to make a budget, manage your credit, prepare to buy a home, planning for retirement, or to build wealth. So those are the tenets in the program that we want to make sure people have access to. It is a program that is online, as well as we curate customized workshops on a regular basis for individuals in the District of Columbia. So you can always hear something from us to learn more about your finances. But that online tool also will customize modules based on what you're interested in learning, and then we connect you to DC resources. On top of that, there are programs such as Front Door, which is frontdoor.dc.gov for an individual to be able to learn about the programs that are available here in the district. And it's not only just for first-time home ownership, but also for other programs that relate to home ownership that we have on that website as well. And I'll turn it over to Shaida for some of the other programs.
Right. Well, you've heard me mention the HPAT program. Again, it's one of the most popular, I think, home buying programs because of the generous down payment assistance that it provides. It is administered by Housing and Community Development here in DC, and their direct website, you can get through them through DC Front Door, but their direct website is dchcd.dc.gov. Or you can call them at 202-442-7200. In addition, I mentioned DC Sustainable Energy Utility. Wow, it's a mouthful, right? DCSEU. They help residents, businesses, and institutions in DC save money on energy, right? Through energy efficiency programs and renewable energy programs. So if there is help that is needed in this particular area, even just to learn some of the tips that I discussed, they also can be reached by a phone at 202-479-2222. And lastly, my shameless plug, the Financial Empowerment Center, which offers complimentary financial counseling. So if any of this is confusing to our listeners, then they can make an appointment and talk with a very competent counselor who can walk them through some of the steps that they're going to need, or at least tell them where they stand. And then also they can hear more about some of these programs, as they are very knowledgeable, and they can be reached by email at fec@upo.org.
Excellent. Excellent. So much valuable information today. I truly appreciate that you joined us. Thank you, Michelle and Shaida. I appreciate your time and all the great information you've shared. It's been incredible. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. And we really just want to make sure that we can get this information out to individuals in the District of Columbia so they can make better financial decisions that will work for them and their families.
And I should say the information on this podcast is for general information purposes only. Nothing in this podcast should be taken as legal advice for any individual case or situation. You should consult an attorney or a broker, your agent or insurer for questions about your finances, coverage, or for professional advice. So this concludes our DISB podcast on preparing for home ownership. For more information about the department's services and resources, you could visit disb.dc.gov. That's disb.dc.gov. Or you can call us at 202-727-8000. Again, 202-727-8000. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Thank you for joining us. Take care, everyone.